80-20 is crazy, though. Come on, man. 80-20 is hard when anyone's fighting. 80-20, the only time 80-20 could be thought of in fights has been in the case of Khabib and John Jones. They're the only people that have gone through this whole thing without losing. They are the only two. So you could have possibly said, well, yeah, it's probably 80% that guy's way because they never lose. But guess who else hasn't lost? Ilia Topuria. So to put him on the opposite side of that 80-20 is crazy to me. I don't believe that for 1 second. I really do disagree with Khabib on that one. That's one that there is not a guy in the world that I believe is going to beat Ilia Topuria 8 out of 10 times. That's just the truth.
He thinks that Arman would really beat Ilia in a fight.
Nobody knows this, but Khabib usually he's good, he's smart and he knows fighting. But this time I don't agree with him because Ilia has a good takedown defense. He stops takedown. He's a good wrestler. I train with him and I try to shoot him, take him down, but I can't. He comes forward, he pressures you, and he wants to make you to fight back, like strike with him. But that's where you make mistake. If you strike with him, that's where he got you. So
well, you made that clear tonight, and now all eyes on Ilia. I know that you've already made your case. That's what you want next, and it makes complete sense. Why will you be able to be the one to defeat him?
I mean, you can watch my fights and to see like I'm a well-rounded fighter. I can strike, I can wrestle, I can kick. And my endurance is good, my condition, I'm explosive, confident, young. I don't know, I can like go so much things. I'm better than him, He's maybe his hands is not faster but powerful, but I'm not gonna stay on that distance. I'm smart.
The conversation around Islam versus Ilia has cooled off fast because Arman Tsarukyan just kicked the door in. After that commanding win, the spotlight didn't just shift, instead it snapped straight onto Arman versus Ilia. Suddenly, the matchup everyone thought was next has been replaced by a rising contender who's making his case loud without saying much at all. Fans are already switching their debates, analysts are drawing new lines, and the buzz is building around a showdown that feels a lot more real than it did a week ago. Let's break it down.
Ilia Topuria will be defending the lightweight championship of the world in January on Paramount. If that date is not true, then we don't need to speed this story up. We can all just take our time. And in the process of taking our time, it's going to make the case stronger and stronger for Tsarukyan. If Tsarukyan can turn it around quickly, which he did not appear to be dealing with an injury, it appears that Tsarukyan could definitely make it to the arena.
The man at the center of it all, Arman Tsarukyan, didn't hold back when he aimed at Ilia's downtime. He basically said Topuria has been sitting still since June, hunting for softer options while the UFC tries to polish him into a star. In Arman's view, a real champion doesn't skip the hard fights or chase new weight classes without first defending the belt he already holds. If Ilia wants to talk about moving to 170, Arman says he needs to prove he's legit at 155 first, and that means stepping in with him.
Do you have any idea what's going on with him right now? He hasn't fought since June, and we don't know, Charles has fought.
He's trying to find easy fight and to defend that belt and go up. And UFC trying to make him to be a superstar and defend the title, because right now he cannot go up to the 170 because he didn't defend the title. Why he gotta go 170? You gotta prove that you're a real champion.
Even Islam Makhachev had to tip his cap after watching Arman tear through Dan Hooker. He expected Tsarukyan to get it done, sure, but not with the kind of one-way domination Arman delivered. And coming from a former champion, his takeaway carried weight. Arman didn't just win, he planted a flag and proved he's earned a crack at Ilia's belt. In Islam's eyes, that performance was a message loud enough that the champion can't ignore it.
Вчера Арман Tsarukyan одержал уверенную победу. Впечатлил ли тебя Арман?
Я так и предполагал, что он выиграет, но не так доминирующе думал выиграет. Я думаю, Арман уже заявил, доказал, что он заслуживает титульный шанс и, наверное, будет драться за пояс следующим.
In Chael Sonnen summed up the chaos perfectly. He said everyone already figured Arman versus Hooker was a contender eliminator, but not the fight that would give Ilia his immediate challenger. The plan always felt like someone else would step in first, and the winner of that matchup would slot in after. But once that fight vanished from the board, the picture got messy fast. Now you've got Gaethje loudly staking his claim, Paddy staying undefeated with a built-in moment against Ilia, and Arman crashing the conversation with real momentum. Suddenly, the UFC isn't dealing with a shortage of viable names, it's juggling a pile of them. From a promoter's standpoint, that's a dream scenario, but at the end of the day, they still have to circle just one.
I don't think that surprised anybody that Tsarukyan versus Hooker is going to be a number one contenders match. What we all also assumed, myself included, is that just didn't mean next. Somebody's going to fight Ilia Topuria, and then coming out the backside of that fight, whoever that somebody is will be determined between Tsarukyan and Hooker. So when you take Tsarukyan and Hooker off the board, and you're staring at the board, and you've got Justin Gaethje saying, hey, it's absolutely got to be me or bust, and you got Paddy the Baddy that's completely undefeated in the UFC, plus has an organic face-off, you're put in a pretty interesting position. I mean, you've got a lot of correct answers. As a promoter, you dream of being in a position like this. You dream of having 3 and 4 and 5 guys that can all draw, sell, and bring attention no matter how you do it.
And Chael kept building on it from there. He pointed out that if you plug Tsarukyan into the equation, he's undeniably the top contender. Dana already said the winner of that matchup gets the spot. Arman delivered by finishing Hooker, and the rankings put his name at number 1. Those are hard facts, not opinions. The only uncertain part is whether Ilia is actually defending the lightweight belt in January on the Paramount card. If that date isn't locked in, there's no rush, then the UFC can slow the whole process down. And if they take their time, Arman's case only gets stronger as everything settles and the division reshuffles around him.
Clearly, the number one contender. I know that because Dana White said whoever wins this bout is the number one contender, of which Tsarukyan won. I know that because Dan Hooker just might be my favorite fighter and got beat. As a matter of fact, he got finished. And I know that because the rankings, which come out every morning, every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., all have Tsarukyan as number 1. So, if Tsarukyan takes that spot, right, and a lot of what I just told you is all fact, not opinion. There's one piece of this that is opinion and is not yet fact, which is that Ilia Topuria will be defending the lightweight championship of the world in January on Paramount. If that date is not true, then we don't need to speed this story up. We can all just take our time. And in the process of taking our time, it's going to make the case stronger and stronger for Tsarukyan.
And Sean O'Malley stirred the pot even more, suggesting the UFC won't rush to book Ilia against Arman because they're invested in keeping Ilia's title run alive. In his view, Arman is the one guy at lightweight with a real shot at derailing the champ, and that's exactly why the matchmakers might hesitate. O'Malley basically implied that protecting Ilia's momentum is safer business, but if there's anyone who could smash that plan, it's Tsarukyan.
Arman is no fucking joke. Arman versus Ilia is an interesting matchup. I do not think the UFC will make Arman versus Ilia because I think they love Ilia as a champion. He's a great champion, and I don't think they really want Arman to become champion. He has a fucking legitimate chance at beating Ilia. I can't believe I said it. I think Ilia might knock him out, but if anyone has a chance of beating Arman at Ilia at 155, it's Arman, the Turkey Mound. Tsarukyan.
MMA Guru shared in on Sean O'Malley's take, but he added more weight. He said he was fine with Arman waiting for a title shot after being out so long, but that all changed once Tsarukyan dominated Dan Hooker. Hooker might not have beaten many elites, but he's still a tough opponent who rarely looks easy, and Arman made it look effortless. For Guru, that win wiped out any excuse for Ilia to chase welterweight or consider Islam. The lightweight division finally has real challengers, and the champion's job is clear: defend against them. In his view, Ilia moving up only made sense when the division felt empty. Now that Arman is back with authority, there's no debate. The next fight has to be Ilia versus Tsarukyan.
I was all in favor of making Arman Tsarukyan take a fight when he had been out for a year and a half, doing absolutely nothing to earn his title shot. But when you come back and you destroy Dan Hooker, a top contender that, even though hasn't really beaten many elite opponents and has lost to a lot of them, is a really tough guy to make look that easy, you absolutely earn your title shot. So Arman Tsarukyan has got to fight Ilia Topuria. No more funny business. I know there's the conversations of Makhachev versus Topuria, but I think Makhachev's got work to do at welterweight. We've got contenders. In some moments in these divisions, someone takes the belt and you're thinking, there's no contenders. They've been sat on their ass for the last 6 months. We have contenders in the division, and when there is contenders in the division, the champion needs to get going in that division. You just moved up to lightweight. In my opinion, there never should have been a conversation in the first place about Ilia Topuria moving up again, unless Arman was still sat on his ass. That is the only way I would have justified it, and probably the only way I did justify it was that there was nothing going on in the lightweight division. But seeing as Arman just did this, you have to make him...
On the other hand, Daniel Cormier argued that with Islam Makhachev now competing at welterweight, the two fighters who truly define danger at lightweight are Ilia and Arman, and that goes without questions or debate. He believes that if anyone in the division can replicate the kind of suffocating pressure and relentless pace that gave Islam so much trouble, it's Arman, built for high-level grappling, unyielding pace, and smart striking. Tsarukyan has all the tools to turn Ilia's title defense into a real nightmare. In Cormier's eyes, this isn't just a contender matchup, it's the fight that could legitimately test whether Ilia is the champion he claims to be.
I think Paddy Pimblett's fun. I think Paddy Pimblett has a bright future in fighting, but I believe that the two best lightweights in the world, if Islam Makhachev is now the welterweight champion, it's Arman Tsarukyan and Ilia Topuria, bro, and that's not even in question anymore. I thought that Paddy Pimblett getting in the octagon after Ilia won the belt was, to me, it was a little bit odd because I didn't feel like him beating Michael Chandler should have warranted him being in that spot. I thought that the biggest issue would be trying to do away with the images of Paddy in the cage with Ilia after he became the champion. But then when you watch Arman Tsarukyan last weekend, bro, he's big, he's strong, he can really wrestle, he can strike, he can do just about everything, and his top control is what's a real issue. And I believe that's the problem. That's the scary thought for anyone that are Ilia Topuria fans. Because if there's anyone that could replicate that game of Makhachev, or at least to a degree, Arman Tsarukyan.
However, Kamaru Usman broke down why Arman Tsarukyan's rise complicates things for Ilia Topuria. He said if Arman comes in and gets it done quickly and impressively, which he ended up doing, it forces Ilia to face reality, defend your belt now, or risk undermining the division. Usman understands why Ilia chased bigger opportunities, aiming for pound-for-pound recognition, or a potential run at Islam. But with Islam now at welterweight, that path isn't realistic. Moving up without defending the current belt would leave gaps across multiple divisions, a chain reaction that the UFC simply can't let happen. In his view, Arman's dominance makes the case even clearer. Ilia needs to stay put and defend the lightweight title.
If Arman Tsarukyan goes out there and gets it done relatively quickly in impressive fashion, that kind of throws a wrench in that situation because, and I do think it helps the case of Ilia, you need to stay down and let's defend this belt now because you are the champion here. Are you willing to stay here and defend this title? Of course, Ilia's chasing Islam, and I get it from his perspective when he wanted to come up. I get that. You want to take off the pound for pound best so you can take that top spot. You can now be that pound for pound best. So I get what he was trying to do. And maybe he sees something that most don't see, where he says, I do think I can exploit these things and I can potentially get Islam. Now, unfortunately, Islam is a welterweight now. So it's a hard case to say, hey, I want to go and be a 3-division champion, potential 3-division champion, without defending this belt over here and then just moving up. I think that's hard for the company to do, because now not only do you leave a hole in one division, you leave a hole in 3 different divisions, because you go to a lightweight, you win the belt, you haven't defended it, then you go to welterweight. Let's say for some reason he wins that belt. Now you leave 3 divisions kind of held hostage in a hole in the division.
Whereas Ariel Helwani weighed in on the timing issues surrounding the lightweight title picture. He said there's no doubt Arman Tsarukyan is the #1 contender, but as of now, that fight with Ilia Topuria isn't slated for the January event. The current focus seems to be Gaethje versus Oliveira, and while both fights could theoretically happen, that doesn't appear to be the plan. Helwani argued that if the January card isn't happening for Arman versus Ilia, it's time to scrap other ideas and start planning for the next big slot, likely March. He also noted just how big Arman's momentum has become, pointing out that his rising popularity and dominant performance make this matchup almost as compelling as a title fight between Ilia and Gaethje. The message is clear. The UFC needs to stop dithering and make Ilia versus Arman happen. Moreover, Renato Moicano weighed in on the looming lightweight title fight and made one thing clear. Arman Tsarukyan has unquestionably earned his shot. When asked who he sees coming out on top, Moicano still leans toward Ilia Topuria, praising him as the best fighter in the division right now. He acknowledged that Islam Makhachev's style is notoriously tough to beat, methodical, grinding, and sometimes underwhelming, but Ilia combines knockout power with slick grappling and submissions, making him a complete package. For Moicano, Topuria isn't just the top lightweight, he's a fighter with the tools to be considered among the greatest of all time, someone who can test Islam and Arman both in every aspect of the game. So what's your take? Should Arman Tsarukyan get his long-awaited title shot against Ilia Topuria next? And if this matchup actually goes down, who do you think has what it takes to walk out with the belt? We want to hear your thoughts, your predictions, and your hot takes in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the latest fight news, breakdowns, and updates from the UFC world.